and 3 days later Hitler declared war on us and Italy declared war on us. So we were involved in a worldwide war. And suddenly the nation came together. We had been split down the middle, people who wanted to help England and those who were America first, who believed that we shouldn't have been in World War I and we shouldn't be in World War II. And there were some groups that were pro-Nazi. But when the attack came on Pearl Harbor, the nation came together. The voices of dissent were silenced. I don't think our nation was ever more strongly united than after Pearl Harbor. And I was sent to Alabama, to Montgomery, Alabama, and they were ill-suited to take care of us at that time. They didn't have much food. I remember eating a lot of peanut butter and jelly sandwiches, which I happened to like. And unfortunately, I came down with an athlete's foot. I'd never had that before. And it was so bad they had to hospitalize me. And I was forced to miss one class. I was sent to Douglas, Georgia, where I received my primary training in a single-engine plane. And I soloed after 8 hours. And when I did solo, they tried to wave me in, but I had a sense of freedom. And I kept landing and taking off, landing and taking off. I never enjoyed anything more than I did at that time. And from Douglas, Georgia, well, in Douglas, Georgia, I had an experience that upset me. Each instructor had 4 students. And the other 3 students that my instructor had previous flight training. I had none. I had never been inside of an airplane. And about halfway through the course, my instructor called me over and said I was being assigned to another instructor. And that new instructor had washed out his 4 cadets. And my heart sank. I thought I was going to be washed out because of that instructor. I flew with him, and then I was checked out by the major, the commander of the field, and I passed, and I was authorized to go on to basic training. Little did I know that they were not checking me, they were checking the instructor out, and they washed him out. But my heart sank, and I was very depressed when I went through that situation. I went to Sumter, South Carolina for basic training. And from there I went to Douglas, Georgia for 2-engine training. And there again I had an odd experience. It came time for night flying, instrument flying at night. And I was assigned to a captain who I didn't know. At that time, students would fly in the left seat and the instructor in the right seat. When I went into the plane, the captain told me to sit in the right seat, that he was going to do all the flying. And we took off, and for 2 hours, 2.5 hours, we flew around, and he just circled the field. And when we came in for a landing, the wheels were up. And when the wheels are up and you come in for a landing and you pull back on the throttle, a klaxon would sound to warn you that the wheels are up. And I tapped the captain on the shoulder and I said, "The wheels are up." And he just nodded and he landed with the wheels up. And I was brought into the commanding officer and said, "Why did you land with your wheels up?" And I explained that I never flew the plane. And apparently that captain, who was very muscular, he was about 6'3", very strong-looking guy, had folded because he was under stress teaching people how to fly, and they washed him out. So I had these odd experiences which bothered me considerably because I was determined to go on and fly. And they asked us when we graduated, would you like to go into training or to combat? And I said, combat. Well, if you're familiar with the military, whatever you asked for, you didn't get. So they sent me into training gunners in air-to-air combat. And this was at Fort Myers, Florida, and we flew from 8 o'clock in the morning to 8 o'clock at night, intermittently. We'd fly for a half an hour, land, and then get a new group. And I compiled a huge amount of flying time. And I really learned how to fly, and I gained confidence in the aircraft. And we, on a rare day off, we would dogfight. So while I was very unhappy about being in the training command, that flying that I did there really helped me when I finally got into combat. And I flew a B-17, and I realized how flyable the B-17 was and what I could do with it. It was a tremendous confidence builder. I went into B-17 training in Florida, and I was sent from there to Peyote, Texas. That's the garden spot of America. We used to sweep our quarters out with a shovel. The wind would blow in all this sand, and it would end up by being 2 inches thick. And for a lark, some of the pilots would buzz the cattle down there, which I never did. I was a very conservative pilot. I never took any chances. From there, we went to Texas. And, no, I'm sorry. From there, we went to Tennessee, Dyersburg, Tennessee, where I picked up my crew. We had 10 people in the crew. We had a pilot, co-pilot, navigator, bombardier, who were officers, and the engineer, assistant engineer, turret gunner, belly gunner, then the tail gunner, 2 waist gunners and so forth, and a radio operator. And the crew were a motley group from all over the country whom I came to respect and admire. And we got along beautifully. And from the first day I joined the military, people called me Rosie. Anybody whose name began with R-O-S-E was instantly called Rosie. And I named my plane Rosie's Riveters. My mother's name was Rose, and there was a song that was very popular at that time called Rosie the Riveter. And it just seemed natural to me to call it that. And from Tennessee, we went to Dayton, and we went to Presque Isle, Maine. From Presque Isle, Maine, we went to Greenland, Iceland, and Scotland. And I landed in England in the summer of 1943. And I was sent to the 100th Bomb Group, which was located at Diss, Thorpe Abbotts. And I remained there until the end of the war. I was into my 3rd tour without going home. I decided that as long as I had the ability to fight the Nazis, I would stay and fight. And I flew until the